Hi everyone, it's Jen again. Hope you're all having a good week. Sorry for missing an update last week. I just kind of decided to give myself an extra week of just not creating any content, just to try to preserve my mental and physical health best I can. This whole winter has felt like kind of a struggle, to be honest, with just things that are happening in real life on a material level besides struggling with my health. I've decided to just maybe take a step back a little bit to slow down, not put so much pressure on myself for the long-term kind of outlook on the project, as well as just kind of taking care of myself. Game development really is more of a marathon than it is a sprint. So even if I could have crammed in getting Chapter 7 done by the end of February, I don't think that it would have been good for the long-term prospect of the project, just because every time that I try to push myself beyond what's probably good for me, it's gonna take that extra step towards like burnout. Like if real life was the little management meters that are in our in this game in Allele, I would be taking a big chunk of that bar towards possible burnout, where then I end up having to take like a big longer break if I don't like pace myself properly. So that's kind of where I've been at like the last week, where I've still been working on Allele. As you can see, I've been working on some of the new sprites, with giving Isaac a new outfit for Chapter 7, where he gets a little bit more fancy. So it's not that I haven't been working on it at all, because I do find that like taking a cold turkey break for more than like a day or two gets me out of the habit, and it doesn't necessarily make me feel better, but taking a step back from it and maybe only writing maybe 50 words instead of trying to write 50 lines instead of trying to write 200 lines, which might be my like usual daily goal. I'm gonna take a step back and just give myself permission to just look at the project and work on an aspect of the project that's maybe a little bit easier. Allele is so writing heavy compared to working on like Arcane Dice Wars or even EXG, which was pretty writing heavy when it came to like the chapter where you were at the base. They had a lot of art asset tasks though, and coding tasks like built in, so it felt like there was a little bit more variety to tasks that I had to juggle, so that on days where maybe I didn't feel like writing as much, I could work on those other tasks. Versus Allele, there's really not very many tasks other than writing. And in the case of Arcane Dice Wars, there wasn't really like a major divergence in the writing until like much later in the story. So in Villain's Heart, it didn't really happen until like the 4th chapter, where you're getting ready to go to war. I think that was the 4th chapter. It might have even been like the 5th chapter or 6th chapter, where you could actually choose to side with the Crown or choose to side with Brookhaven. And the same with Arcane Dice Wars. It wasn't really until quite late in the game, around like chapter 9, chapter 8, that I think around chapter 9 or 10, where you get to actually change course and decide to go side with the gods or with the old ones. And so I didn't have like this load of writing completely separate routes that I have in Allele. So not only do I have within the routes kind of alternative paths or divergent dialogue or bad endings to write, but then I have actually 3 completely separate stories that I'm kind of writing simultaneously. So I think as far as accomplishing my goals, I think it's best for me to write all 3 routes at the same time. That's what I learned, at least from Soul Union, is that if I complete the story without all the routes kind of going on at the same time, then it's too tempting to kind of feel like I'm done, and that the other routes maybe don't need to be they don't need to be created. So I didn't want to do anything like that again, where I had plans for a character route, and then I just lost the desire to actually complete it because the story felt finished in my mind. So I do think that it's important for me to write all 3 routes simultaneously so that none of the characters get more of a finished treatment than the others. But at the same time, it is a lot of writing. So yeah, it's a different kind of, it starts to feel a little bit grindy. In the same sense that like working comics felt grindy in the past, except for with comics it wasn't the writing aspect, it was like the drawing aspect that started to become very monotonous. So I do sort of miss the division of tasks where I can kind of, I guess, exercise different parts of my brain, get into different kind of production modes, where I'm sort of getting stuck into like the one very writing heavy one. So I think in the future I will go back to like making more of a hybrid game. I think that those are the types of games that work the best for like the type of development that I like to do. And I am looking forward to taking a break come Otome Jam, where I'll be working on a card game with the Allele characters. That'll be like a little bit of a side game, and that will give me a chance to focus a little bit more on programming and art assets again, instead of having everything be so writing heavy. So I think that that's going to be an important break that I'm going to be able to take. I do plan on still writing chapter 8 before I take that break, so March and April are going to be chapter 8. I think that chapter 8 will probably be released sometime in mid-April, and then I'll spend the rest of April prepping for Otome Jam, and then for the months of, right? For the months of May and June, going into the beginning of July, we'll be working. Yeah, May and June will be Otome Jam, and then I do plan on having that game just for Otome Jam, so I plan on completing it, and then coming back into working on Allele for July and August and September and October. My original plan was to finish Allele by October, the end of October, to have it kind of be neatly fit into that anniversary, but now I'm not so sure because it seems like the scope of the story keeps on expanding, and I don't want to feel like it's being rushed. I do want it to have like a satisfactory ending that's really important to me, and if I need to take extra months to create all the endings to properly reflect the character, the player's choices and everything, I'd rather take that extra time than to meet some arbitrary deadline. So I guess probably pushing forward the story, I'll plan right now on having it done by the end of 2026. And then there are some like features that have been requested that I think there's enough interest in Allele, there's been enough support in Allele that I would consider going back and doing a final polish on it, so to speak, in the same way that I did with Arcane Dice Wars Villain's Heart, how I did go back and just kind of go over the whole project again, since I am a by the pants writer, to make sure that the writing is a little bit more smooth and polished and focused, as well as adding some features that were requested, such as a gallery, and possibly maybe even making an alternative to Isaac's route that highlights Nate a little bit more, as was requested. I've been giving it some serious thought, and I think that there would be potential to make an alternative route that maybe goes into that character's psychology a little bit more, but it would be very spoilery as far as like the relationship that the protagonist has with their spirit or with the voice. So I think that maybe that would be one of those New Game Plus features, and that might be something that would be in only a downloadable version. I think that maybe the web browser version, there's some features that I've been hesitating to implement because I'm trying to keep it light. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great week. And as always, don't forget to enjoy the process. And thanks so much for all the support and patience. Take care. Bye-bye.